Hey, what's happening? It's your host Tinto, and welcome to another episode of The Feeling Station, proudly brought to you by Shumba Money. Now, if you guys don't know what Shumba Money is, it's a service that provides safe, fast, and easy money transfers from the UK, Australia, Canada, and Botswana to Zimbabwe, the motherland. What makes Shumba Money different is that they won't charge any transaction fees if you're sending any amount less than $200. Yep, you heard that right, and I'll say it again. There are zero transaction fees when you send up to $200, and your recipient can collect money from their Newlands branch in Harare or any National Building Society branch in Zimbabwe. So, what's there for you to do? Sign up on www.shumbamoney.com today and start sending your money. Shumba Money. Trust the pride.
Is that a breakup? I think we have a situation right here.
On the Feeling Station.
Hello?
Yo, big man, what's up?
Nothing, thanks. How are you doing?
Welcome to the Feeling Station.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been something that I've been looking forward to for a while.
Thank you very much. For those who are listening to the podcast for the first time, it's a podcast that touches on romantic, family, and friendship breakup stories that people would like to talk about with a view to give you lessons from their experiences. I hope you find the story entertaining, but more importantly, meaningful given everything that we're going to talk about today. Now, the podcast is popular for two main reasons. The first being I do my best to keep my guests anonymous, which brings me to the fun part, big man. Are you ready for this one?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Right. So I've gone over to Southern Africa, and your name is very common in Zambia, Zimbabwe, and South Africa. And your name is going to be Mandla for the duration of the episode.
Right.
Yeah. And what Mandla basically means is strength. So somebody who's strong, somebody who's firm, somebody who's dependable. Does that describe you, sir?
It does. I am very dependable.
I always laugh to myself and say, is there ever a person who would want to be known as not being strong or dependable?
Or not really.
So that's your name. Your name is Mandla. And the person that you're going to talk about, is this a guy? Is it a girl?
Well, it's a couple of girls, actually. So two of them.
Okay.
Yep. So two of them.
Well, what are you going to call them?
I'm going to call the other one Miss UCT.
Miss UCT. Okay.
And the other one Miss UNISA.
This already sounds like trouble. This already sounds like trouble. All right. So the story is about Mandla, which is yours, and you're going to talk about Miss UCT and Miss UNISA. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, and the second reason why the podcast is doing great is there are real life lessons that people learn from the story that you're going to share.
Mm-hmm.
So, what lessons do you have for people listening to this episode?
The biggest one is do not be double-minded.
Ooh.
Yes.
Yo.
I know there's something like that in the Bible that says a double-minded man something.
Absolutely.
But clearly, it's a recipe for disaster.
Wow,
You
mad
decide to
thing.
be double-minded. Yeah.
So, don't be double minded is lesson number one. Do you have a second lesson?
I've got a second and a third.
Oh, nice.
Second is it's great to be open
Yes.
in a relationship and great to share things, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes don't overshare. I'm sure there's one or two things that you want to keep to yourself, just in case it's not received in the same way that you intend it on the other
Mad.
side.
I mean, but that, okay,
Yeah.
we will get into that because I kind of like that. Because it's a fine line between sharing and oversharing, and you will never
Yes.
know unless you understand the person on the other side,
You can't.
and that will only happen maybe once you've overshared already,
Mhm.
and now you know that from this point on, don't overshare. Yeah, I really like that
Absolutely.
lesson. Lesson number 3.
This one's been done before,
Mhm.
but be careful of your besties.
Of your besties.
Yes.
Ooh.
Careful of your besties and their intentions. They're not always pure, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay. I think I'm really gonna enjoy this one. So let me play back those lessons for you. Lesson number 1:
Uh-huh.
don't be double-minded. Lesson number 2: it's great to be open in a relationship and great to share things, but sometimes don't overshare. And then lesson number 3: be careful of your besties and their intentions. They are not always pure.
Yep.
Ooh, okay, Mandla, let's get into this. So, who's coming into the picture first, Miss UCT or Miss UNISA?
Miss UCT comes first because
Okay.
the major part of the story is about her.
All right. So let's get into it
Right.
then. And let's just check the relationship here. Were you guys in a romantic relationship with Miss UCT, Miss Unisa, or these are friends? What kind of breakup are we
Or,
talking about today?
or it was romantic relationships both ways.
Hey, aye,
Yes.
aye, aye, aye. Okay. So Mandla and Miss UCT, where did you guys connect, and why did you, as a guy, feel, I want to be with this girl?
Right. So I used to work in an office park,
Mm.
the kind of place where you've got like 10 different companies in the same space.
Yeah, yeah.
We shared a canteen, we shared bathrooms and a couple of other facilities.
Mm-hmm.
So I was there with my friend, and this company, it seemed to always be recruiting people based on their faces. Because the kind of chicks that you would see there was just
Good
like a
looking
modeling
chicks.
company, very good looking.
Nice.
So I'm there in the company, just minding my own business.
Mm.
I'd been 2 years out of a relationship at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And then this company recruited a new batch of interns.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at them and I just thought, okay, they look right. I didn't see anyone who was particularly interesting to
Mm-hmm.
me.
Mm-hmm.
But then my friend came over to me and said, have you seen this one?
Mm.
And I said, yeah, I've seen her, but yeah, she's young. I think our age difference at the time was about 9 years.
Ooh.
And I thought, yep. And I thought, well, she's way too young for me.
Yeah.
Obviously, my ambition, expectations, and what she's looking forward to doing is very different.
Mm.
But so I brushed it off.
Mm-hmm.
But my friend convinced me eventually to just talk to her, just get to know her, just to see what she's all about. And I did.
Out of
I
out of
started.
out of curiosity, this friend of yours,
Mhm.
was he single?
He was married, and he had pressure from his wife
To
to
marry?
get me in a serious
Ah,
relationship.
why?
You know, it is when you hang out with boys and the single guys
Oh.
there, the wives always assume that us, the single guys, are going to influence the married guys to
Yeah,
also
yeah,
dabble
yeah,
in womanizing and all
yeah.
that.
She was a very
So,
clever woman.
this guy was hell bent on getting me settled. He was hell bent.
Okay,
He would go talk to people on my behalf. He'd do all sorts
okay,
of things, get me numbers and all of these things.
okay, okay. That makes
So,
sense now. Mm-hmm.
so eventually I relented and we got talking.
Mm-hmm.
Um, she was actually quite nice, very pleasant to talk to. She was
Mm-hmm.
ambitious. She had the head screwed on very, very right. And for somebody her age, I thought she was quite mature.
Mm.
And she was coming from the background where her ideal was to get into a relationship with one person, and
And
that
marry that
person would
person.
be exactly.
Wow,
She wasn't all about sampling different dishes and then choosing.
wow.
She was, I want to choose the one, and I'm done. So at this point, she had been out of a relationship. Unfortunately, she said I couldn't do anything about that. The guy moved away, and they lost touch, and so she had to move on. But
Okay.
she had no need of sampling too many dishes at all.
Yeah, yeah.
And I thought in my head that for somebody to be balanced later in life,
Mm-hmm.
surely you need to see a couple of experiences.
Yeah,
So
that's a general thought. Even I
yes,
shared the
yep,
same thought
yep. So that
because
when you settle,
yeah.
you don't think about what else is out there. You've seen
Mm,
it, and you now decide that this is what I want.
mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. But she was of a different mind. She said, you know what? As we start talking, I know what your intention is. I just need you to know that I'm not here for just a fling.
So
If we get into this, this is serious.
did this mean that she had not had sex before because she was trying to keep herself pure for the special guy?
Yes, and that was actually one of her conditions. She said, I am a virgin
Mm-hmm.
and I intend to keep it that way until I get married. So even
Muddy.
if we get as close as we're gonna get,
Mm.
I'm keeping my virginity until we get married.
So
And
how did you receive that as a guy?
well, I said it's all right. I intend to say if we get along, maybe in the next couple of years, then we get married and it's all right. And she said, I prefer a mature guy like yourself. 9 years different doesn't bother me that much
Mm-hmm.
because in her head she said I think that a more mature guy is not so much interested in sex. He's not obsessed with sex as much as a younger guy is. She said guys my age, which was around 2021 at the time, are so obsessed with sex because they're all about chalking off numbers and getting conquests. You've done that, and I don't think you're gonna get so much pressure to pressure me into sex as much as a guy who's younger
What?
than you are.
Well, was she right about that?
Well, in a way, I think she was because as you mature, I think you are a lot more in control of the environment. So when you're younger, it's all about peer pressure. And so guys pressure each other into having sex with girls. When you're mature, no one's pressuring you really because there's nothing, well, you've done it. You've seen all of what sex is all about. It's not a big thing anymore. Yeah. So she said, yeah,
Okay.
no sex from the get-go.
Yeah.
And she would, what's the word? She would reinforce me every now and again with things like, oh, I feel so safe with you.
Yes.
I know even if we go out, I'm so safe with you because you're mature and you understand me and all of this. And after being reinforced like that,
Yeah.
there's no way I could have pressured her into having sex because she was literally managing me psychologically.
This is already very interesting.
Yeah.
Out of curiosity, so we know that sex is off the table.
hmm
Will she at least allow you to kiss her and cuddle her
Yes.
and hug her and yeah?
But you know what? The interesting thing was people assume that sex is only penetration, eh? And all these other things are doable except penetration. So we used to do everything else. The red line was penetration. Like you can touch me, we can kiss, you can undress me, I'll undress you. At one point, actually, I think we did oral.
You what? At one
We
point
did
you did well.
oral sex.
Oh right, okay, yeah, okay,
Yes,
yeah.
yes. We did it just the one time, and she wasn't comfortable because she couldn't reciprocate. I did. I gave it to her. She couldn't reciprocate because she was just like, yeah, it's just out there, too much out there for me.
What does she mean? It's just too much out there for
Like,
you. I mean,
like,
when she had received,
or she'd received, and so she said, I can't receive anymore because I'm not going to be able to reciprocate because it's just too much for me.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it was that as well as penetration.
I've got to ask this question.
Right.
So being getting sexually aroused to that level,
hmm
it puts you at the risk of getting blue balls,
Right.
right?
Well, she didn't mind using her hands until I was done.
Oh.
Yeah, that was fine. The only thing that couldn't be done was penetration.
Ah. Why are people like this? Come on. Okay, cool. All right.
Yeah,
So, mm,
so we rolled on. We rolled on for about half a year until she had to go back to school. She was interning
yeah,
as part of a program, as part of a school program,
yeah.
and then she had to go back. I went to UCT a couple of times just to go see her over the weekend. We'd spend the weekend together. I'd come back to the big city and then just do my thing. We did that until she was done with school,
Mm-hmm.
and it was great. We only had 2 flashpoints.
Okay.
Yeah. At some point, she said to me, I told my mother about you.
Ooh.
And I said, well, that's nice. What did she say?
Mm.
And then she said, well, I've had a conversation with her before about marriage.
Mm.
And she advised me to put down a list of qualities that I'd like in a husband.
Mm.
So when I told her about you, she asked me about the list. And she said, how well does it score on your list?
Mm.
And she says, well, she was keeping the list for me. And she took out the list and we scored you. and I scored out of 67%.
You scored 67%.
Yeah,
Okay.
which was underwhelming to me. I was like, okay, if I'm the person that you intend to be with for the rest of your life
Yeah.
because of your philosophy, isn't 67 kind of low?
Yeah.
That kind of feels like you're settling already, and
Yeah.
you're young. You've not seen the world that much.
Yeah.
67 is kind of low. She said, no, it's a pass mark.
Ah,
You should be happy with it. Yeah, you passed.
how,
It's actually like what, a second class,
what?
like an upper second class.
It's crazy how all of this has become very mathematical.
Exactly,
And
exactly.
and there's a grade classification in there to say no,
Yep.
it's a pass, and it's actually
It's
the upper
it's it's an
second class pass.
second class. Yeah, you should be happy with it. Like
Mad.
most people wouldn't even pass, so you
Yeah.
passed. I don't see what you should be worried about.
Mad. Okay.
And it was one of those things that I thought, maybe you shouldn't have shared this, because
Yeah.
I kept it in the back of my head, like, okay, I'm with somebody who thinks I'm only a 67%.
I
Like,
totally
is that enough?
I totally get that.
Yeah, it was strange that she would share all of that with me, but she was all about sharing. She would not hold back on anything at all.
So at the back of your mind, were you thinking that at some point she's gonna want somebody with a higher quality pass? Because an upper second class is great, but then we all know that there's room for a first, and then not even a first. Beyond the first, there's a distinction.
Exactly.
So you're almost 2 grades away from the perfect guy, and that played on your mind.
I had two things on my mind at the time. She's young. Obviously, she's going to meet somebody else, obviously, who scores higher than me. Then what? Because she's young, she's still got time to explore.
So is there something you could have done about the gap between 67 and 100?
Right. Well, what she said was the things that I'd like for you to be better at is, I wish you were more entrepreneurial. Yeah, because you seem to be so wedded to your vocation that you don't think about anything outside of that. Your 5-year plan is all about, I want to rise up in the ranks in the corporate world. I wish you were more outward looking, because the future is more entrepreneurship than being employed. If you lost your job today, for instance, what then? Yeah.
So what was she doing as an intern? Working in a place which might get her in as a 9 to 5 person and not an entrepreneur.
Well, she said, I'm this young, so I want to get a degree first. You've had a degree for all of this time, and I think it's about time for somebody your age that you started exploring other ways of income.
Well, were any of her parents entrepreneurial? Mom, dad, hers?
Well, any of her parents?
Yeah.
No. And that was the thing with her. She said, I don't want to live the life that my parents lived. So we've got to be different. Yep.
My guy.
Yep. My parents are civil servants, and all they have is their jobs. So I'd like to be with somebody who's got the other side of things.
Okay.
I was like, okay.
So that's one of them. What are the other things?
The second thing was, she was involved in a lot of charities. She would go donate to blind people, to deaf people, to orphans, and all of these things. And that wasn't quite my thing. Yeah, that wasn't quite my thing. I was happy to give her money to help out, but actually going to these places was, just not for me. So she said those two are the critical ones. The other ones she wouldn't say. Yep.
I had the first two, not to undermine what somebody values, because that's important to them.
Right.
But there's a measure of work you could put in as Mandla to cover those. But for the ones that were kept under wraps,
spoken of. Yep.
That's unnecessary pressure on you, because if I were you, I would now start trying to find a way of probing her mind and finding out what exactly she was trying to say.
Exactly. Like, what am I supposed to do now that I know that I'm not measuring up. Just accept it and move on.
Okay.
So yeah, we passed that phase. And then the second thing that happened, the second major thing that happened was I hosted a friend of mine and his wife who's from another country. And they're from a Latin country, if I can put it like that.
Yes.
So we hosted them. I hosted them, and I took my girlfriend along with me. We went to a resort, spent a weekend there, and all of that. So because my friend and his wife got married at like 18, 19, they were so in love with each other.
Mad. 18 years.
Yep. 18 years they were married.
Sure.
And well, for their society, it's common. And because people from Latin countries, I don't want to stereotype, but it seems like they're very open about their affection for each other. They hold hands, they kiss over time. And even you can see even in the way they walk together. You find the guy touching his cheek like in the middle of the street. We are, compared to that, quite conservative. Yeah, we are very conservative compared to that. So just spending the weekend with them. She got sick during the weekend of stress. Yeah. She said I got sick of stress because they seemed to be so in love, and we seemed to just be, blah, like nothing.
So I mean, did she actually become unwell, or she's just saying it as a figure of?
She actually did become unwell. I had to get her some medication from the pharmacy. She said I was so stressed, and as soon as we dropped them off at the airport, she said I am so relieved. Once these guys left, it felt like something just lifted, like a weight just lifted off of me. Like these guys were so, I don't know, it's so imposing, because I'd been to this Latin country where my friend lives, and he had pulled out the red carpet for me, driven me all over, and all sorts of things for me.
Yeah.
So I was trying to give back the kind of reception that I'd got. So unfortunately, part of what she felt like was also that she was not my priority during the weekend.
Right.
And that added to the stress and the sickness. So she said, as soon as they left, she was like, I feel so relieved that these guys are gone. Now I'm back to being your priority.
So putting the priority issues to the side, it sounds like her witnessing public display of affection really affected her.
It did, because she said, we're not like that. We're not in love like those guys. And why is that?
Yeah, well, that's what was going to be my question. So so for you, do you have reservations about public display of affection? Are you okay with it? Do you do it?
I have strong reservations for it. I think what's meant for the bedroom is supposed to be for the bedroom.
Okay, is holding hands for the bedroom?
Holding hands is fine. But like I said, these guys from this country would kiss in public, would be touching in public, to the point where we would be embarrassed to just be with them. Like everyone's looking at you like, what are these guys doing?
Right.
Because you're at a space where everyone's conservative and thinking, this kind of feels like too much.
Does Miss UCT like that sort of thing? Did she like that kind of thing? Would she want to be kissed in public?
Nope.
No?
No.
So why was she getting stressed when it's not your cup of tea and it's neither hers?
I think what she meant was, even if I'm not comfortable with it, I'd like for you to try every now and again, just to show me that affection. I'd like for you to have just an overcoming feeling of, I want to kiss you, and then you just do it. And maybe I stop you midway, but just that, that attraction. I would like for us to be like that. Yeah.
What was stopping her to be like that with you? Because this goes two ways, no?
Well, yeah, it is. But she said it's the guy's responsibility to do that.
Yeah, nah.
It's not my responsibility.
Okay, all right.
So yeah, that phase passed. We managed to work it out somehow. She went back to school, finished, and then she was now sitting at home. So while she was away, she was also living in a remote part of the country, which wasn't very connected. So while she was away, Miss Eunice came into the picture. So what happened was, 2 years before I'd got with Miss UCT, I'd had a 6-month relationship with Miss Unisa, but it had ended because we both felt that the connection wasn't strong enough to sustain a relationship.
Okay.
She was gorgeous. She was one of those where if you walk around with her, everyone's looking at you like, wow.
Mud.
She was very good looking.
Mm.
She was well groomed. She had her own business running already at the time, and
Nice.
she just had things on point.
Yeah.
So after those 2 years, one of her friends called me up from the blue,
Mm. Mm.
and she said, "Hey, Manla, how you been doing?"
Mm.
I said, "Well, I've been all right. We just did a bit of catching up, and that was that." She
Mm-hmm.
called me later and
Mm-hmm.
said, "You know what? The whole reason I'd called is to check if you are in a relationship at that point."
Mm.
Yep. And this was the friend. I'm pretty sure she was in the room when the call was being made, or Miss Unisa, that is.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's no way this friend would have called from out the blue. It must have been something that they discussed
Yeah.
before she made the call.
Mm.
So because I was curious, I said no.
Mm. What were you curious
Yeah.
about, my guy?
Well, I was curious to see where it was going. I said, "Well, no, I'm not."
For what
And she
reason,
said,
though?
"Okay."
Because remember you're with someone and you're currently at 67%, and what you want to be
Uh-huh.
trying to do is move that score up
Let's get 200.
instead of exposing it to a risk of declining and getting into the fail field. And this curiosity was gonna send you in that direction. So what were you really curious about?
I was just curious to see if we could pick it up with Miss Unisa, because after the 6 months,
So you still wanted Miss Unisa.
I did, because like I said, she was.
So that means you guys didn't agree to break up. She dumped you. No?
Or if you put it like that, I suppose that's what it is. But at the time, we did agree.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, but who brought up the conversation?
Or she did.
So you got dumped.
I did. I accept that I did.
So so you weren't curious then. You wanted her back.
Wow. Well. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's a better way of putting it, actually.
At the expense of Miss UCT.
Uh huh.
Eish, bro.
She was away at the time, so I had a lot of time to myself, and I thought, you know what? Let me
Mm.
just see where this one goes.
Okay, all right.
So after the call with the friend,
Mm-hmm.
Miss Unisa texted. Miss Unisa, yes, Miss Unisa.
She still had your number.
Yep, she did.
Mm-hmm.
She texted and said, "Hi, how you doing?"
Mm.
All of that, all of that, all of that. Before long, we were hanging out, doing dates, going to movies, all of this, all of this, all of that. So Miss UCT was still in the picture. She was out in the country somewhere.
Mm.
We'd do a couple of calls every now and again. We would talk and all of that. But I think she sensed that something was going on.
Yeah.
And so she moved into the city.
Okay.
Yes, she moved with her friend into the city. When
Mm.
I asked why she was moving, because at the time she had not been called for a job yet,
Yeah.
and she had nothing really she was looking forward to coming to do.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "You know what? I think my prospects are better if I'm actually in the city. If I get a call, it's easier for me to just go and meet whoever wants to meet with me,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
instead of doing it from out in the country, where maybe it takes a whole day for me to come into the city.
Right.
So I think I'd rather be closer to the city
How did you
than
receive that
down."
that information? Were you excited? Were you like, what is this now?
I was like, "What is this now?" Because
Eish.
like at the time, Miss Unisa was coming on strong, and I kind of liked the feeling. And so Miss UCT coming into the picture
Yeah, it's suddenly an
meant I
inconvenience.
meant I had to make a decision,
Mm.
and I was not quite ready to make the decision at the time, because, like you said, Miss Unisa had dumped me before,
Yeah.
and I wasn't so sure.
The thing is, the reason she had dumped you for, had it changed?
Well, the At the time, she had said we had agreed that the connection wasn't great, wasn't good enough to sustain a relationship.
Yeah.
So this was what 3-4 years later,
Mm.
and she was approaching a milestone age,
Yeah.
like the kind of age that most girls don't want to still be single.
Oh yeah.
So I think whatever she'd gone through during the 4 years, she decided, you know what, it's not so bad after all.
Right. Okay. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the connection that was missing before
Mm-hmm.
was there now for some reason. She was she was calling me at odd hours of the night.
Mm.
We would do 30-minute calls on the phone. She was paying for dates, paying for lunch, sending me
Ah.
gifts. I'm telling you, doing all sorts of things because I figured she was approaching the milestone age. And
Yeah.
whoever she discussed with, he had said, you know what, you can't get 100% from a guy.
Yeah.
So if he's attractive still to you, if he's decent, maybe you can then build from there.
Do you know what the funny thing is? As
Uh-huh.
for me, as I'm listening to this,
Right.
so Miss UCT, which is the girl we're really talking about here, was
Uh-huh.
saying you were an upper second class pass, right?
Yes. Yes.
So you're really not a first or distinction, but you're good
Uh-huh.
enough.
Yes.
And what you've just described to me sounds like the same thing that Miss Unisa is saying to herself. To say, fam, the streets are wild, but what I had
Yep.
was actually good enough, and we
Mm-hmm.
can work at making it better.
Mm-hmm.
How does this make you feel as a guy that you are just borderline? You're not really what either Miss UCT or Miss Unisa want, but you just about get by.
But you know what? I don't mind because when I'm with somebody also,
Mm.
I don't think anyone can ever be everything to you.
Yeah.
So they've still got, like, Miss Unisa
Mm-hmm.
was not the tallest,
Mm-hmm.
and there's nothing that she could do about that.
Oh,
She
yeah,
wasn't. She wasn't the tallest.
Mm-hmm.
Miss UCT was not the most beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
She was okay. That's why, in the first instance, I wasn't so sure. I was like, okay, she's okay. She's not
Okay. Oh,
great. She's not like,
right.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
I get it now. I get it.
So it's one of those. I don't mind somebody who's got gone seen out the world and then come back and says, you know what? Yeah, I've seen the world. I think this is where I want to be. It's all right. I don't mind at all.
Okay.
So yeah, when Miss Unisa moved into town, one of my besties then said, my guy, this chick clearly wants you to take care of her. What's she doing in the city without a job, without any savings or anything like that?
Mm.
And because of that, I started sort of resenting her because essentially she was asking me to look after her while she was in the city. Because she did move in with a friend, but it was only temporary. And I remember one of the conversations we had was she pointed out that, well, I know some of my girlfriends who have their boyfriends pay their rentals and all these things.
Mm.
And at the time, actually, they had to sit down and explain my situation.
Mm-hmm.
To say that, you know what, I come from a family where my income is quite important.
Mm-hmm.
So for me to shell out 200, 300 in your rentals and your upkeep is not something that I can do per month. I can
Because
chip in every now and again because of the situation at home.
right. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah.
And in any case, if we're taking this somewhere, I need to be making savings.
Mm.
And she said, well, what am I supposed to do? I'm already here. And you are my boyfriend. So, yeah, it is what it is.
Where what was? I'm assuming her family wasn't in the same country that you guys were.
Our family was in the same country, but they were also living in the raw kind of location.
Okay, so income on that side of things, how did it look?
They had no capacity to be paying rentals in the big city.
Mm.
Yeah. So I don't know what story she'd cooked, but they'd allowed her to come to the big city. I don't know what they expected her to be living off of or to be living off of whom. But yeah, she came. At the time, so I'll just add in another detail. Before all of this happened, while we're still good and everything, we had the discussion about lobola,
Mm-hmm.
and I had said at the time that I thought 5,000 USD
Mm-hmm.
was about right for lobola in the first instance.
What were you using as the standard to measure that? Why
I was just,
5,000 instead of 1,000 or instead of 20,000? Why
you
five?
know, I just thought 5,000 is a decent figure. It's not too low, it's not too much. It's somewhere in between.
Okay.
And it's something that at the time that I thought I wouldn't struggle to raise that much.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
So I thought 5 grand. So we had to talk about it. I said, well, 5 grand is about decent, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And she had said, oh, why would you limit yourself like that? I was like, it doesn't sound like I'm limiting myself. Like it's all of 5 grand. It's a decent ex-Japanese car
Mm, mm,
for crying out loud.
mhm.
And she said, I just think you're limiting yourself. You shouldn't limit yourself when it comes to these things. Well, she actually came from the kind of society where the status was determined by the lobola that was paid for your daughter kind of thing. So it was very important for her that she put a status like up there. So 5 grand
Right.
was actually like 5,000 is limiting yourself. It
Okay.
should be, yeah, because it was very important for a society that she came from.
That's really the reason why I asked the question, how you
Uh-huh.
measured that 5 grand was a good amount, because
Yeah.
I know instances where people have paid 25.
Uh-huh.
You know, they've cried and kicked and screamed, but 25 was 25. And I know
Right.
families that have paid nothing. You know, they've
Uh-huh.
just literally just
Uh-huh.
gone
Uh-huh.
with
Uh-huh.
something,
Uh-huh.
you know, less than $1,000.
Right.
You know, and it's been accepted because they say, look, we
Uh-huh.
understand, we know that she's going to a good home, and we don't want to feel like we're selling
Uh-huh.
our
Uh-huh.
child.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Okay,
So
so
while she was away,
mm,
I had joined a group of men uh, where the guy was doing just mentoring,
mm-hmm,
business ideas, general life skills,
mm-hmm,
that kind of thing.
mm-hmm.
So the leader of the group used to insist that, guys, the maximum that we should be paying for Lobola is 1,000 USD. Yep.
Yeah.
And he would say, if you give me 1,000, and I go to the family of your girlfriend,
Mm.
it's either I'm gonna come back with her because they're gonna accept 1,000 because I'm pretty convincing, or if I don't come with her, then we will know that she wasn't worth it. She wasn't worth it
Mad,
because
mad,
yeah,
mad.
because if she comes from a family where they think 1,000 is too little, that means there's trouble ahead for you. And trust me, because I know there's things. If this family
Mm.
values money over good relationship and good future, because imagine that you're paying 5,000-10,000 for lobola,
Mm.
these people are going to insist that you do a wedding where they don't contribute a thing, and the wedding is 15-20 grand. Already you're starting a family 30,000 in the negative.
And so they're saying the family will do this because they're assuming you've got the money to do it.
Yes. No. Even if they assume that you don't, they expect that you find the money somewhere. They don't care.
Mad thing.
So this guy insisted, guys, if your girlfriend's family doesn't understand 1,000 as a token, because it's
Mm.
supposed to be a token, then she's not worth the trouble. So
Mm.
when she came to the city,
Mm.
I then started saying, I think 1,000 is enough. And yet, initially I'd said 5,000. And she had
Mandla,
thought that
Mandla,
5,000
Mandla.
was too little.
Remember, my guy, we had 67% here. We are really borderline pass fail. And how, how did she receive the news about 1,000?
Or not very well. Um, Not very well at all. Like I said, she came from a society that attached value on the level of lowball.
Yeah.
So if you've been saying 5,000 before and she didn't think it was enough, and now you think 1,000, she probably thought that it meant that my value is diminished in your
Yeah.
eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're no longer even willing to front up the 5,000 that you were initially wanting to.
Mm.
Now you would just want to do 1,000 because my value is diminished for some reason.
Mm.
And so during that phase, I started withdrawing from Miss UNISA because Miss UCT was in the picture.
Mm.
So we'd no longer hang out as much. And I'm sure because of her age, she sensed that maybe there was something else going on.
Mm-hmm.
And thankfully, she just accepted and withdrew herself.
So you didn't
So
have the conversation to say, look, I need to withdraw. You just started withdrawing. She got the sense you're withdrawing. She backed up as well, and then it just faded.
well, the thing was, when we hooked up the second time,
Mm.
we'd never actually had a conversation of we are starting a relationship again.
So
It
what
was just literally just hanging out.
were you guys physical?
No, no, not at the time. It was just maybe very intimate hugs, and that was that.
What's a
Nothing
very
beyond that.
what's a very intimate hug?
Or a very intimate hug is like a, I don't know, 2-3 minutes of just hugging. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. That's more than
You know,
just a friendly hug. That's a hug with intentions, clearly.
I got a friend of mine who I do some film work,
Uh-huh.
and whenever we finish on set, he always says you learn something new every day, and it's true
Right.
because maybe this time the sun was hitting from all angles and we couldn't shade it, so now we learned you need to have flags, blah 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 blah. But the
Uh-huh.
key expression is you learn something new every day. Yeah.
Right, right. You do.
Today I have learned about an intimate hug. A 3-minute long hug, my G. What? Okay, so why do a 3-minute hug instead of a 30-second hug? Like what's the difference?
Well,
Like
the difference is 30-second hug is literally just friendly. And when you extend it beyond a minute, it's communicating more than just friends.
and in all of that with your bodies close to each other like that, you don't feel
Uh-huh.
like stroking her waist, like stroking the back of her neck, like kissing her. You don't feel like doing none of that.
Well, you do, but you manage yourself such that you don't, you manage yourself.
And
Yeah.
what would she be doing to you during that time?
Well, she should just be feeling the hug as well. Just maybe a couple of strokes on the back, nowhere beyond the back, just the back, 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 back. Yeah, and just that. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was slowly withdrawing from Miss
Yeah.
UNISA
Yeah.
because Miss UCT was in the picture and she was my girlfriend officially.
Yeah.
But during the time, she started saying that I had changed.
Mm.
And she would jokingly, or maybe not so jokingly, she would jokingly shake me and say, "Where did you put my boyfriend?" Like, leave it. I need my boy. I want my boyfriend back. Like, who are you? Kind of thing.
Mm.
Because she said I had changed. And part of what she said as well was that the hugs are now just friendly. I don't feel the intimacy when we hug.
Mm.
You started saying 1,000 is enough compared to 5,000 and maybe even more that I was expecting.
Mm.
She also said what? Well, she also said generally it just feels like not you. You're not my boyfriend, the one that I used to love and like. I used to talk about you to all my friends and say you're so amazing, you're so wonderful. And now I sort of feel as if what they would say to me is turning out to be correct. Because she said whenever I told my girlfriends about you, they would say, don't worry about it. It's a time thing. Men will change on you.
Eish.
And you'll tell us, yeah, you're going to tell us after 2-3 years of dating this guy, he's going to change. He won't be like this for all of this time.
And there you are fitting the description.
Exactly. Exactly. So unfortunately, whenever she complained, I would say, wow, you said I'm only 67%.
Oh,
Nothing stopping you from finding 100%.
bro, that was H man.
Yeah.
Hey.
But she was saying, no, I don't mean like that. I'm just trying to point out so maybe that you can change and come back to the person that I hoped that I knew you to be,
Yeah.
and all of that. But my situation had changed at the time. Like I said, we used to work in the same office park.
Mm.
So we used to see each other a lot more. I would drive her to work, drive her home,
Mm-hmm.
would spend a lot of time together. So in the second iteration of things, when she came back,
Mm-hmm.
we didn't spend as much time as we used back in the day. So I said, maybe that's why you think I've changed, because we don't spend as much time. And she said, no, I can feel something's off. I hope we can work it out, but I can definitely feel it. Feel that something is off.
You strike
So
you strike me as an honest guy.
mhm.
Um, what would have stopped you from being honest with her to say that you're just not feeling it, and that you were bothered by the 67% issue?
Right. No, she knew I was bothered by the 67% issue, but she said, don't take it so seriously. It's just a something that I do with my mother. It's not serious. But the thing that would have stopped me from being totally honest and saying I'm not feeling it
Mm.
was at some point during the back and forth, she had sort of said, you know what, part of the reason why I moved to the big city was for you. Um, and that weighed heavily on me, because then I could just drop her, because she was looking to me um, to be provider as well as to be there for her. So I decided I was going to just soldier on and see how it turned out, because I didn't want to just, yeah.
You're sounding quite fearful
Well, yeah.
of commitment, because
hmm
what commitment will require you to do is to be the one and only and everything for this woman, and commitment for her equally would mean the same.
hmm
And I guess it was obvious that she came through to the city because she could feel the distance, and it really was for you.
Yep. Yep.
So
Yep.
i- if
Well,
if
my phobia for commitment, like you said,
mm,
was I still had that 67% at the back of my mind,
yeah.
and I still had the age difference as a concern. I still felt that she was going to meet someone else
Mm.
who was maybe younger and who had the other things that I didn't have. And so I didn't want to
That you
go
never
all the
got to
way.
find out as well what they were.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
In an interesting way, while she didn't say certain things, you were projecting a lot of your fears on her.
Uh-huh.
So the fear that, one, you're not enough and somebody else will come in, and yet she had told you you should be happy that's a pass. So that's not her problem. This is your internal problem.
Uh-huh.
And then the fact that there's the age gap and the age difference, she's
hmm
clearly said she would rather have a more mature guy than a younger guy, because a mature guy knows what they want to do and that's what she wants.
Yep.
So again, it's a projection of your fear, not hers.
hmm Yep. Because she would say, it's not a discovery that I'm this young. You always knew it, and you still made the move. We still went into a relationship, so I don't see
Yeah.
what the point is. Yeah.
So are we really bothered by the 67% issue and the age gap,
Uh-huh.
as compared to the fact that Miss Unisa came knocking on the door and reminded you what you're really attracted to?
I think it's
Because the vibe I'm starting to get here is that, remember, Miss UCT didn't catch your eye from day one. She only caught your eye after your friend mentioned and pushed you in that direction, right? That's number one.
yep.
And then number two, there's the 67% issue, and then there's also the age gap issue,
hmm
which weren't really that big an issue with Miss Unisa.
hmm
So I'm just getting the feeling that I don't think you were into Miss UCT from day one, and you were just trying.
You're right. Part of what I thought initially was also right.
Mm,
This girl is going to go back to UCT at some
mm,
point,
mm,
and not that I hoped, but I would have understood if she said, you know what, that was for when I was interning, and now I've moved on. I'm doing something else. I would have been okay with it,
mad thing.
because it happens all the time. Interns come through, you have a fling for the couple of months that they're at work, and then they go back, and then that's done. Because college obviously has other people, and there's a whole life that you're not a part of.
I gotta ask this question.
Yep.
If somebody is very much into someone and they have to
Uh-huh.
respect their desires sexually, as in the
Uh-huh.
sense that Miss UCT said no sex, and if you're really into
Yeah.
her, you would really respect that, because you're like, hey,
Uh-huh.
my girl don't want this thing, I'm gonna respect her.
Uh-huh.
and I feel you did the same.
Right.
However, you had sexual needs.
Uh-huh.
Did you ever step out on Miss UCT?
I never did. Like I said, she was okay with her hands,
Mm,
and every time I especially when I was down at UCT during the weekends we'd spend together.
yeah.
Yeah, there'd be a lot of that.
Okay, I get you. So
Yeah,
your sexual
just not
needs
penetration, but
were
yeah,
met.
yeah, yeah, were handled like that. Yes.
No pun intended, eh? Man goes they were handled. You're a freaking joker, blood. Okay. Yeah. So then what
Right,
happened then? How did you guys progress?
right. So what that happened is she got a job. So
Mm.
before she got a job, she said, "You know what? Like I said, I've been feeling distant from you. So can you give me a little bit of space? Give me like a week to think through the things,
Mm.
and then in a week's time we can talk."
Yeah.
During the week that we're giving each other
Mm.
space, she
Mm.
got a job,
Mm-hmm.
and my bestie said, "Can you not see that she already had a job?"
Ah.
And the week was so just she could assess uh, and see if she still wanted you because already she's got something now. She doesn't need you anymore.
Ah.
So the week was literally, and I thought about it, and I thought she might be right because it is the strangest thing. Can you imagine that you've been in the city for 3-4 months,
Yeah.
no interview, nothing,
Yeah. Yeah.
and all of a sudden in the week that you say I need a break, I need a break. Yeah,
Bang. A
it's the
job
week
comes
that you get a
through.
job. Yeah, you interview and get a job in the same week.
Oh snap.
Yeah. So what Bestie was telling me literally was she's been keeping things from me. And yeah, come on, you can't believe she's just got a job. Surely.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's
Well,
too
after
quick.
the week,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, after the week we got back together. She said, "Well, let's try again, maybe, and see how far we can take it." So she started the job. Everything was right. Everything was great. Everything was good. Um, things were so good that inside a month she was driving a car. Month later, she was staying in her own place,
Mud.
filled with yep. She was moving really quickly,
Mm.
and because she was moving really quickly, naturally the thing was right. If part of what I moved was for this guy to look after me, now that he doesn't he doesn't look after me. I've got my own thing going on. Do I really need him still?
Hey.
Yep. So I was feeling a sense of that as the time was progressing. Where she used to look for me, she was just like this time she didn't ever look for me. Um, I would look for her every now and again, but the distance kept growing. She started getting busy at work, uh, traveling, and all sorts of things. The kind of things that you can sense, that you can tell this is a hint
Mm.
of a relationship that's no longer there. So, unfortunately, Miss Unisa at the time had
Mm-hmm.
disappeared off the horizon.
I
And I was losing this one as well.
I
And I felt like Beauty Dan's ass
yeah.
because literally I was losing out on both ends. That double-mindedness was now
Yeah.
costing me. Yep.
Okay. That lesson really hits
Uh,
home now actually.
exactly. Exactly. So she was settled, she was settling in, doing really well, doing very, very well, if I must say.
Yeah.
And eventually she got the courage to dump me. And that was that.
Did it bother you that she was doing very well?
It didn't at all. Besides just being a boyfriend, I was also a friend.
Yeah.
So I wished her well in everything that she did. It
Mm-hmm.
was actually nice that she was doing as well as she was, because one of the things that came from that was she was now looking after home. In the home, there was a sibling there that needed to go through school still,
Yeah.
and she was looking after that. The parents were civil servants, and at the time, civil servants were in a bad way, and she
Right.
was looking after home in a big way. I was happy for her, and besides, there was less pressure on me and my little money.
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So yeah, she got emancipated, and she kicked me out. And that was
Have you heard from her since, or do you know where she is?
I have.
Mm,
A year later,
mm,
after that, we sort of tried to get back together.
mm-hmm,
I did the whole flowers thing. She was turning a milestone birthday again.
mm,
So I was doing the whole flowers thing. I was sending messages and nice things,
mm,
all of that. Um, and then we went for a birthday lunch.
mm,
And Tinto, of all the places in the city
mm,
that you could go for an outing,
mm.
the place that we went to there was a reserved table.
Okay.
So we chose a table that was opposite the reserved table, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
And then as people were filling into the reserved table,
yeah.
I started seeing familiar faces.
I
I couldn't figure it out at the time until Miss Eunice walked in.
No way.
I'm telling you, same place. She was doing a birthday for her father, I think, and it was just the family and friends doing a birthday on the opposite end. So when I saw her walk in, I said to Miss UCT, you know what? There's my ex. Can we choose a different table to this one? And she said, why? Are you guys still talking? I was like, no, we're not, but still, she's like, I
Yeah.
would be distracted.
Yeah.
Can we just move? And she said, yeah, well, let's move. But she wasn't happy
Mm-mm.
at all. Yeah, so while we're trying to get back together, this thing happened. And then, I drove a car. I drove her home, I think, in her car.
Mm-hmm.
And on the drive home, something happened, and I scratched the car. I don't even remember how,
Mandla.
because she only saw it in the morning. And she called me like, Mandla, when did we scratch the car? I was like, I don't remember. And she says, well, you were driving the whole time, so it must have been the time that you scratched the car. I was like, well, I don't remember. You were right there beside me. And you know we didn't even hit anything.
Yeah.
But now, and she said, well, the sky is scratched. I haven't touched it since last night. So it must have been you. And because of that, it must have then reminded of the hurt that she went through the first time.
Okay.
And that was that. So we tried, and then we failed.
Yeah, I know. I think you can confidently say that this one is dead, eh?
Yeah, half an hour now. Now I
know-
can completely say that. It's been 2 years now, I think,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's dead.
Because on the romantic front, there was stuff happening, but not quite. And then for you felt you couldn't cover the 67% thing because it always played at the back of your mind. And then now if she's getting irritated by a scratch, which could have happened afterwards anyway, people get their cars keyed and scratched when they're stationary.
Yep.
And for that to then play such a factor, I don't know. It's just best that you guys. Hey,
and she went all Adele on me. She was like, I thought time was gonna heal me, but no, I was too broken. It's too much with that. And that was that.
Hey, sorry, my bro.
Well, thank you.
But but at least I can tell you sound strong. You've dealt with both the Miss UCT and the Miss Unisa thing. Time is.
Well, my name is Mandla. I'm a strong guy.
Oh yeah, wicked. You see now I get it. Now I get it, bro. Totally get it now. And hey, thanks so much for sharing this story. And just to play back the lessons, lesson number 1, don't be double-minded. And we can see how Mandla's indecision with regards to Miss Unisa and Miss UCT pretty much made him lose both. Then lesson number 2, it's great to be open in a relationship and great to share things, but sometimes don't overshare. And I think this is related to her sharing the 67% stuff, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It is.
And how
I didn't need to know that.
you didn't need to know, and how it impacted you. You couldn't deal with that. And then last but not least, be careful of your besties and their intentions. They are not always pure. Bro, thank you so much for sharing this. And you guys have been listening to another episode of The Feeling Station. I'm your host, Tinto, and I look forward to catching you in next week's episode. Peace.
Tell me what you're feeling. Tell me what you're feeling. Now that it's over.
ati zvandaro rwaini handichageza ini.
Let me talk about my feelings. Let me talk about my feelings, yeah.
Rudo imoto runotokuchidzirwa mai.
Kuchidzirwa amai. Love is a fire.
Rudo imoto runotokuchidzirwa mai.